MG is a very emotive brand. It doesn't matter if I see that MG logo on the front of an MG6 or an MGB or whatever MG it may be. To me, it's a very emotional thing. I love the brand because it's an instant connection to my childhood. It reminds me of growing up surrounded by these cars.
Morris Garages, a brand like fine wine, has aged gracefully over the years. So much so that every generation's youth resonates with it for the same old values and traditions that the brand began with. Every person who owns an MG has a certain backstory to tell the world, an extremely rare oddity that one would only find with MG.
My name is Charlotte Bowden. I am the owner of Frisky, the MGA, who used to belong to my grandfather. I inherited her last summer after he passed away. Frisky has a really interesting story. The number plate is FSK 302. So my granddad added a few letters in there and came up with the name Frisky. I think it kind of suits her because she's hot red and she's super fun to drive and she's pretty nuts.
Imported from California in 1990 by her grandfather, Charlotte's MG MGA has always been an iconic car and a massive hit amongst the sports car enthusiasts across the world. Produced in Abingdon between 1955 to 1962, MG MGA was a major style breakthrough for the brand.
She was imported from California by my grandfather, and a gentleman called Ron Gammons, who was an amateur race driver and who has a specialist MG garage, decided to take her on the Monte Carlo Challenge in 1991. And she took first prize. She had very, very few penalty points. And so that's one of the kind of highlights of her history that I know about, because that's when she was in the UK. After that, my granddad took on full ownership and then spent almost 30 years driving her around the UK, going through Europe, France, down to Cornwall in England, all those sorts of things.
Years of history with the car and the love for her grandfather drew Charlotte even closer to Frisky. Her knowledge of the car's history shows that it's not just a car to their family, it's a piece of himself that her grandfather left behind.
Yeah, I've got a lifetime's worth of memories as a passenger. And last summer, I became the driver. And it's kind of scary because it's a big responsibility because there's a huge emotional connection to the car, but also a responsible connection as well, in the sense that, you know, this isn't something that you can just swing around a roundabout and put your foot down. Every time I start the engine up, I'm always thinking that it might not start because it depends on temperature and stuff like that. So every time you turn the key and she goes, I'm just like, yes. So the first thing I feel is relief that the engine's going.
Charlotte's mother believes that the car was meant to be owned by Charlotte, since she was the only one who could understand her grandfather's love for car and also take the legacy to the future generations.
My father had a love of cars at a very young age.
On his passing, I was torn a little bit as to what to do with the car. But Charlotte has taken a very keen interest in the car, and I think he's passed that interest onto her, and she loves it.
Oh, it's an old Safety Fast magazine, that one, isn't it?
That's Frisky.
Of course it is. And look, Monte Carlo on the front.
Mum and I went for a drive recently because it was the year anniversary of Dodo passing away. We thought it would be really fitting after a year anniversary of my grandfather passing away to take the car out and retrace some of the roads that he would have taken her on when he was alive.
It's quite common for MGs to be passed from one generation to another. That was certainly the case in my family. And we've got lots of members throughout the club. People like Charlotte with her grandfather's MGA. We've come across dozens and dozens of people with stories that connect their MG to their family.
And when there are restorers like Liam Murphy who drive their passion into energy and give old vintage cars a new lease of life. In this case, Liam's latest project is the little blue MG, as he fondly calls it.
I bought an MG because I wanted to enjoy the summer and I wanted a car that was a classic British mark. I wanted a car that would give me a lot of enjoyment and a lot of fun. And so I bought my 1979 Midget, which was the first MG that I saw, and now I own two. And I'm very proud of this one. I think people connect with MGs because everybody in their family, or they can always relate to somebody who had one, and they can always remember there was an MGB down the street, or there was a particularly nice restored example that they remember seeing at a show, or they've been to a racing or a motorsport event where they've seen one go flying past them, and everybody's always wanted to connect to that heritage that the MG mark has.
While some inherit their MGs, some are simply drawn to the brand's amazing history. Liam Murphy is a young restorer who certainly falls in the latter category.
And we're now sitting here in 2018, and the original workmanship still shows, and the quality of the steel, and it's a good project to get yourself into. Anybody who wants to start restoring cars should start with an old British car, and the MG is a really good choice for that.
For Liam, the car was an instant connection, and he wanted to spend his time restoring an MG because, since his childhood, he had seen various vintage cars, and he had not only wanted to own a spectacular piece, but he wanted to build it from scratch.
Lots of patience is what's required to restore a classic car, and being methodical and working through the manual, working through using online guides to help you. And like I say, this isn't the first car that I've sort of taken apart and put back together, but it is the first MG that I have taken apart and put back together. So it meant looking in slightly different places for that information, but I was able to completely pull it apart, put it back together using the manual, using online guides, and using support from the MG Car Club.
MG has always been known for its exquisite craftsmanship that reflects in their cars, vintage or modern. The flawless yet simple engineering keeps working even though much time has passed.
My grandfather taught me a lot about working on cars and talking about how to keep a car running, and he hasn't seen this one yet, so I'm looking forward to taking it to him and giving him the opportunity to have a little go in it and take it for a spin.
Changed a few bits.
I've changed it, yes.
For young MG owners like Charlotte and Liam, MG stands for style. As they drive into the sparkling sunshine in the unpredictable British weather, one can't help but stare at their speed machines breeze past, possibly into another 100 years of awe.